Hi everyone, I'm Aaron Rump, and today what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to laser engrave onto our cups. So we have our Universal Laser Systems laser right here, and we have our AutoCAD set up right behind me, and I'm going to go over and show you how to adjust and set up laser engraving. Now remember, we don't have a rotisserie, so I'm going to show you the way I do it until we get one. So let's get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to my AutoCAD and I'm going to start a new project, and I'm just going to open up with this ACAD, just a default setting right here. I kind of move it up, kind of zoom in a little bit. So what I have to figure out, if you look down here, is I got to figure out where I want to do my engraving. So I'm going to do some text. I'm just going to put my name on there, but I like to know how big this area is going to be. So if I look right here, I'm going to say about 3.5 inches. Looks like a pretty good start to this right here. This is going to be a pretty good distance right here. But the thing to remember is, because I don't have the rotisserie option, I will have to maintain, depending on the size of my cup here, as I'm going to have to make sure that I don't go over what I've gone is 1 inch and 800 thousandths. Now this cup is a little bit wider, so if it was a skinnier cup, I'd probably only have to go down to 1 1/4 inches. But for this example, I'm going to try to get 2 inches out of this. Now, if it falls a certain amount, the laser intensity is greater here than it is on the sides. So that's what we're going to shoot for. We're going to shoot for a 2-inch wide by 3.5 inches long. So let's come back to my AutoCAD. So I come up here to my box right here. I'm going to make this rectangle. I come up here, I'm going to hit 0 tab, 0 tab, enter. That puts the bottom left of my text right here. Now you can go either way you want to go. I've just always had a habit of going this far, but if you'll notice, I've got this value right here. So I said 3.5, so I'm going to go 3.5 tab by 2.0, and then I'm going to hit enter. So now that I have my rectangle here, I don't want to cut a rectangle onto my cup. I'm just doing this for scale purposes when I put my text in there. Now here's the thing. If I had this on like some cork board or cardboard or some wood that I actually wanted to cut out the rectangle around my text, I can. And I'll show you what I'm going to do right here. So what I'm going to do is multi-purpose. I'm going to select my line, and I'm going to go up here to layer properties. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to call this cutting. So this cutting layer, I want it to be a different color, so it picks it up differently. So I'm going to go with red, hit OK. On default, I'm going to put it to 0, and that's it. So now I'm going to go ahead and close this out. So select the line again. I guess I didn't have to select it the first time. I'm going to come down to cutting, and I'm going to select cutting, and then I'll hit escape to deselect it. So now I want to make my text. So I'm going to click on text. I'm going to scale it up, and I'm going to go ahead, and I like to bring this open because sometimes it defaults to smaller. And I'm going to go ahead and put my name in there, but I'm just going to put my first name. So I'm going to put on all caps. I'm going to put in Aaron right there. But I don't want it to be really small. So notice I clicked off of it to get back onto it. I'm going to click it once. I'm going to double click it. I'm going to highlight it, and up here I can change my size. But before I change my size, I don't want to put this font, this Arial font right here. Now keep in mind, if I hit my drop down and I start highlighting, you'll see that I've got a lot of different fonts that I can go off of. So if you have a favorite font that you like, that's all good. You can find your font and go from there. If you need some fonts that I have found to be good, is if you look right here, I've found these that come out pretty good, and some of them are kind of hard to read. I'll see if I can zoom up on it. But these are some of the good fonts that I've found work pretty well. But for today, I'm just going to go with stencil. Keep it nice and simple. So I'll minimize that. I'm going to come up here and type stencil. And now that I have the font, I want to come up here and I want to see if I can make it the right size. So I'm going to change this to 0.5. And you can see that wasn't big enough, so I'm going to go a little bit bigger. I'm going to go 0.75. And see, I was getting a little bit bigger, but if you'll notice, I don't want to get too long, but I'm not going to have to worry about the height of it because it's definitely going to be smaller than what I need. So from here, I'm going to click on it once. I'm going to drag it to where it fits right inside my scale, and you'll see it doesn't fit perfectly. So I'll do that again. I'll highlight everything, and I'm going to come down to 700 thousandths. So that looks pretty good. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you have it up here, 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 right on the line. It's not too important there, okay? However, from this point, it's going to be a lot easier. I can get rid of this because I already know how it is, how big it is. Now from here, I'm going to hit Control P. So I want to go ahead and get into the print options. So on print, I'm going to select this VLS. This is the printer that I have currently loaded. I'm going to go with the default printer size, which is 24 by 18. I'm going to either go with extents or display. I usually like to go with extents in case I'm zoomed up too far. So if I'm zoomed up and I hit print display, if I go to preview, you'll see it just gives me that. So I don't want to do that. So I hit escape. I'm going to put the extents back on. I like to center the plot. And this right here, it made my words really big. That's not going to work. So I'm going to deselect fit to paper. I'm going to click on 1 = 1. I'm going to hit apply to layout. So every time I try to print something, I don't have to go over and do that again. And I'm going to hit preview. So now you can see I'm zooming up. That's what I'm going to get whenever it comes out. So if this doesn't look clean on your image or on your text, it's going to come out exactly how you see it. So I like that. I'm going to hit enter, and then I'm going to hit OK, and that's going to send it over to my laser printer. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and zoom out a little bit. I'm going to minimize here, and now we're going to set up our printer. So UPC, you'll see I come up here, and there's my name. It just printed as the last one. I'm going to turn on my machine. Okay, so as I turn on the engraver, it's going to power on. It's also going to home itself. So if it wasn't already in the top right, it will go all the way there. The next thing we want to look at is I'm going to come up here. Before I start lasering, I'm going to turn on my air. And when I turn on my air, I have a gauge right here, and I want it to be on the 20. That's going to be the right amount of air pressure that I want. So, but again, I don't have to turn that on until I'm ready to push play right up here. So now let's take our cup and let's come over to our laser engraver. I'm going to open up my door, and I'm going to set my cup in there for just a second, and this is how we're going to have to adjust everything. I'm going to come over here to my raise and lower buttons to raise up or lower my cut to where this laser's at right here, because I don't want my laser to hit it. So I'm going to lower it down, and if your cup is too big, we might have to take out this entire part right here. So we're going to lower it right here to see if we can get it to fit in there. And as you can see, it will not fit in there. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to open up our compartment. I have a door right here on the front, and we're going to open up this door, and we're going to take out this entire piece right here, and we're just going to set it off to the side. And then we're going to come down here and open up the door. So now you can see that table is quite low. So we're going to come back over here, and we're going to raise up my table. And while it's raising up, I'll go ahead and put my cup back in there. One thing I do want to point out is I don't want to have this lid in there while I'm doing it. So as you can see, I just went ahead and took it off, because that's one less thing I can run into. And then I'm going to set it down in there. But when I set it down in there, I'm going to have these wedges that I'm going to show you to keep this nice and stable so it doesn't roll around. So let's go ahead and set it in there. And this having a handle helps a lot because it's not going to want to roll. But the next thing I want to do is make sure that this is raised up a little bit so it's nice and flat. So let's go ahead and do that now. So I have these little wedges right here, and these wedges are just little rubber wedges that I use to kind of stable everything. So what I'm going to do is, it doesn't matter where the cup goes, I just kind of got it centered, but I want to make sure that my cup is nice and straight. I don't want to have it at an angle. So I'm going to set it right here, and this is kind of part of the process where you got to finagle a little bit and use your best judgment on getting it nice and straight, because we don't have that rotisserie. So to kind of make it quick, I have a decent idea where we're going to need to be, and I know that it's going to be pretty good. So if I tap on it, yeah, it moves a little bit, but we're not putting a whole lot of pressure on there. So that looks pretty good right about there. So I can also see that it's somewhat straight. If I need to, I can maneuver it just a little bit. But here comes the scary part. Now we're going to move the laser over the cut. So back on my screen, I have these options over here to zoom up, zoom out, and then I can move the laser. I can focus my view. Now I'm just going to move. If you notice, if you look up here, I have the entire table scaled out in inches. So depending on where my cup is, I'm just going to start by moving to 19 inches and 2 inches. And then I'm going to kind of work my way over to the cup to make sure I don't run right into it, because the laser is going to go pretty fast. So you can see that I had plenty of clearance there. But if I go any closer, I'm going to hit that cup. So the safest thing to do is to lower the cup, so that way you know you're not going to run into it. So let's get that lower. I can see that's pretty good, and you'll get closer at seeing that later. And then when I'm looking at it, I'm looking straight across at here. So if it was me, I would probably raise this cup just up a little bit more right there. But my main focus right now is to make sure that my name is nice and centered on the cup. So I'm going to move my laser over the cup about where I want it to start, where I want my A to be at. So right there, looks pretty good. You can see I'm just clicking around. I'm not being real specific about it. But now, if you look over here on my location, that laser is at 9.5 inches in X and 6 inches and 700 thousandths in Y. So if I come over here, I can relocate my part. So let's remember those numbers. So 9.5 and 6 inches, 700 thousandths. So I'm going to hit enter. Now when I do, and I come back to my focus view, and I zoom up, you'll see that that's pretty much centered. The height of the text, the lower the text, it's all right there in the center. And it's the bottom left of the text is going to start right there. Now I want to make sure it's going to fit. So I'm going to put my focus view right over there, and I can see, and remember, this light will only light up if the door is open. So I can see right now that everything in here is going to work just fine. So with that said, I have everything located right. I'm going to go into my settings, and I'm going to set this up for lasering cups. So aluminum cups, I've done it the same way for a while. I'm going to go into material database. I'm going to go into metal, aluminum, anodized aluminum. I leave it at 100 thousandths, and I'm going to hit apply. Now I'm not going to hit OK yet. I'm going to come up to manual control, and if you had the red square or rectangle or whatever you have in there that's red that you don't want to cut out, you're going to select the red, you're going to come over to here, and you're going to hit skip, and then you're going to click the big red button that says set. So it has now said that it's going to skip the red, because I don't want to cut the red all the time. I like to use that for scaling. So now on the raster, because I'm doing cuts, I increase the power to 75%, but don't hit enter, because if you hit enter, it's going to close out this window and I won't save anything. So make sure you hit set. And now I'm going to hit apply and hit OK. So the next thing I have to do is I have to make sure that I am exactly the right height. So if you look right here, I have this tool which is set for 2 inches, just like that. So I want this lip right here to be flush with the bottom lip of here, not down here and not the screw. This lip right here underneath these 2 screws is where I want it to be nice and centered at. So I usually put this on my cup, and I come down to like where the lowest area is, and I can see it's pretty close right now. That's actually really close. But if I moved over to here, you would see that it would be a lot closer because there's a taper on my cup. So for me, I want to fix that. So I'm going to fix that right now. And you'll notice I fixed it a little bit and that raised me up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lower it just a little bit and you'll be able to see with your eyes how it's supposed to look. Now again, before I cut, if I adjust something, I like to do a double check. So I'm going to go up here to the top of my A and I'm going to go down to the bottom part of my A. And you can see that that's pretty good. Now what you want to avoid is if you get too wide on your text, you see how the laser is way down here. You can get away with some, but I think if you have over 125 thousandths deviation in height, it starts affecting the clarity of the laser. So with us, we're not very tall at all. We're only 3/4 of an inch tall. But now that we have everything set, we're going to turn on our air and we're going to hit play. Now I closed the door, and again, it's going to get loud here in just a second. So I want to show you what I'm going to turn on. I'm going to go turn on the air, and then I have an exhaust system. On this exhaust system, I have to hit the red button to turn it on. When I hit the red button to turn it on, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit play. So I'm going to do all three of those things right now, and we're going to watch this thing do its laser engraving. I've got the air on. I'm going to turn on my exhaust fan, and then I'm going to hit play on the laser. Now I've turned off my exhaust and I've turned off the air just so that you can hear me better. But if you'll notice, I'm going to open up my door here. The air looks to be a little bit off. Now that happened because at the very end, when I adjusted this, I didn't double check enough the location of my cup, so I actually moved it. So again, this is what you would run into if we don't do a thorough check afterwards, but not a big deal, okay? So now what I do before I do anything else is I do not touch anything. I simply close the door, I turn on my air and my exhaust fan, and I run it again. The reason why is it's not very clean. Some of this residue coating gets back onto the cup. So I'm just going to do nothing but run it one more time. So I'll turn on my air and my exhaust, and then we'll run it one more time. Again, we'll turn off our exhaust and we'll turn off the air. And now that I did it twice, I'm going to pull this up to you real quick so you can see it. Now, because I did it twice, you can see that it really cleans up all the way down to the metal surface that's underneath that coating. Okay? So from here, I'll take it to the sink and I'll just wash it with hot water and soap and just dry it off really good. And that's it. So the last thing I'm going to show you guys on my screen right here is whenever you are doing a bigger project, if you want to know how long it's going to run, obviously you can see up here that it only took 1:36 seconds. But if I wanted to know how long it was going to run, I could simply hit start, and it would tell me roughly an estimate of how long it would take to run. And that's it. So when I'm done, I simply just go to deactivate the engraver, and then I close my software. So again, laser engraving is very cool. It's very easy if you have the right equipment, but when you're setting it up, just take your time, and if you need to, go to a local store and get a really cheap cup. I've gone to Goodwills and resale stores, and I'll buy a cup like this for $1, and I'll bring it in so I can start practicing on it. So again, I hope this video helps with your laser engraving. If you didn't want to do text, you can always do pictures, but you'll just follow the same rules. And now you might follow my other video on how to take a colored image and turn it into black and white so that it will laser correctly. Again, my name is Aaron Runt. Thank you for watching.